Thursday, August 16, 2012, Governor Jane Brewer defied President Obama by denying driver licenses and other state benefits to immigrants who were covered by Obama's deferred deportation action to those who qualified for the DREAM Act. Immigrants under 31 who were brought as children were granted a 2-year deferred timeline to stop their possible deportation. However, in Arizona, they won't be able to drive to their now legal jobs. Maybe some kids won't be able to attend school, get public health care, or other benefits not exactly defined by the governor. While this deferred action by the Department of Homeland Security under the President's orders gives many families some relief, it does not address the dilemma of other members in the families who do not meet the criteria for this amnesty, as it's been called. And they are many millions all around the US. Let's take a deeper look into this conflictive and divisive issue that affects millions of people and concerns many others around the country, the one of immigrants, the law, and the rights. The Supreme Court of the United States ruled on the SB 1070 law. While it objected the more radical aspects of the law, the Latin community in Arizona and many other parts of the country still feels persecuted by Governor Brewer politics and Sheriff Joe Arpaio's heavy hand. On the summer of 2010, Arizona passed a law to control its immigrant community. Being next to the border, the state does have a great number of undocumented workers who come across the Mexican border by the thousands, escaping the economical devastation that globalization imposed on most of the countries south of the border. The original version of the law proposed a papers please figure where police could stop anybody based on suspicion of being illegally in the US. It also made schools, hospitals, and police 911 lines as possible points where illegal immigrants could be deported if they failed to show their immigration paperwork. This law was challenged by the federal government and defeated on state court, when on July 28, 2010, the day before the passing of the law, in the middle of large demonstrations and media controversy, Judge Bolton ordered an injunction, banning the most controversial aspects of the law. This put a lid on the heated controversy that Arizona was experiencing, as the Latinos were able to somehow get back to their lives until the legal dispute was resolved. On July 25, 2012, the Supreme Court of the United States passed the SB 1070 with some important modifications. It is not a state crime to not carry papers. No warrantless arrest will be done. Arizona cannot criminalize work. However, any minor offense can land you in a deportation process if you don't have all the required paperwork, because the Supreme Court ratified that police can check the immigration status in a stop if the officer suspects the subject is an undocumented immigrant. Traffic stops are the most common interaction between the police and the civil community, but not the only ones. People could face arrest and deportations in matters like domestic violence calls and noise complaints. According to many, while police can suspect a German or Asian-looking person is here illegally, in Arizona it's more likely that he will suspect from a Latino because the Mexican border is nearby, and the obvious racial difference that distinguishes most Latin Americans. That dangerous racial factor that could lead to an arrest is what fuels rage and fear among Latino communities. Demographic group in which documented and undocumented are often mixed together in the same houses and neighborhoods. But according to Leticia de la Vara, a social worker who walks the community door to door promoting the right to vote, this law goes beyond enforcing punctual immigration cases.
The SB 1070 is not about figuring out who's here, who's not here. It's really about letting people feel like they don't belong here, regardless of whether or not they were born here. And that's, with One Arizona and our members, that's what we know people feel. When we're out there knocking on doors and registering voters, we know people, whether or not they were born here five generations ago or they just came recently and they were naturalized, they already feel 1070. They feel it every day. They feel it when they drive down the street. They feel it when they go to the store. And it's an isolating feeling. Nobody ever wants to be in their country feeling like they shouldn't be here.
There are millions of people involved in this daily drama. Strengthened by the economic crisis and the police state that followed 9/11. A gradual and steady rise of control and persecution is being felt by many people we spoke with.
Sí, pues sí nos da miedo porque como no tenemos papeles de aquí, no somos de aquí a Estados Unidos y luego ya ahorita lo paran a uno y le piden papeles y le recogen el carro, pues pierde todo uno.
Pues me siento mal que lo pueden agarrar y los extraño.
Now many other states have adopted similar legislations. Fueled by a negative image from mainstream press, the polls seems to favor this reported cleansing of undocumented immigrants, as it's been called, which also seems to be a powerful political tool. Here in Arizona, there is a particular incarnation of that sentiment, Sheriff Joe Arpaio. The self-appointed toughest sheriff in the U.S. has won 4 elections in a row and is running for a 5th term in office. He constructed the famous tent city jail and uses a heavy hand every time when it comes down to law enforcement. His raids on the Latino neighbors in Phoenix have sparked fear and outrage in several communities. In early 2010, before the passage of the SB 1070 law, I was able to interview the sheriff for a documentary I was then creating.
I know how to solve the problem is you arrest people crossing the border and put them in jail instead of back and forth. Because when you're in jail, you can't make money and send that money back to your loved ones. So why would people want to come here if they're going to end up in jail and can't work?
Distant from human considerations, these tough immigration policies, like the one Arpaio envisioned, have proven to be effective, according to the data provided by the federal government. It is estimated that 1.6 million people immigrate to US every year, and according to Homeland Security, almost 20 million individuals live here illegally. However, in the last 3 years, the number of people crossing the border illegally has decreased, in part due to a more effective control since 2010. Since that time, the US government spent $3 billion on border control. Border Patrol estimates that 1 out of 5 individuals attempting to cross the border will get caught. Of those, most are deported, but some may face jail time by being accused of smuggling themselves in the country, according to special border state laws. In the current federal legislation for those who enter the US without authority, oversight, or overstay their visas, the following sanctions are specified. Those who overstay less than a year will not be allowed in the country for 3 years or more, while those who stayed more than a year cannot re-enter the country for 10 years or more. There are a few exceptions to this rule. There is a growing number of individuals who are detained while this administrative and legal deportation process takes place. The number of inmates have been growing steadily, and now the Latinos have become, along with the African Americans, the steady suppliers of inmates for what has become prison industrial complex. According to the New York Times, since 1975, the incarceration rate has multiplied almost 8 times. However, there seems to be other reasons propelling the passage of many of these punitive laws. In a deep investigation a few months ago, NPR revealed that SB 1070 law was conceived by ALEC, the American Legislative Exchange Council, with influence from Corrections Corporations of America and many other private companies that house immigrant inmates in Arizona and other states. Filmmaker Axel Caballero from Brave New Films informs us on how there is business in putting Latinos in jail.
Pues se descubrió que el interés es más allá de un interés político. Si bien es cierto, tiene un interés político, una agenda política, también tiene una agenda monetaria. Y son corporaciones multibillonarias que están impulsando estas leyes en los distintos estados. Estas corporaciones son nacionales y transnacionales, como la CCA, o el Centro de Correcciones de América, o la Corporación de Correcciones de América, el Grupo GEO y Management y Training. Son 3 de las corporaciones más grandes que al año ganan más de $5,000 millones. ¿Y cómo lo hacen? Metiendo inmigrantes, entre otros, a la cárcel, deteniéndolos por falta de papeles o por X o Y cosa, y cobran al Estado $200 la noche por cada inmigrante que pasa en la celda.
whereas the profit pushed the policy, or it was the other way around. The situation of having an economic motivation for putting people in jail can be dangerous for the social relations and the well-being of a community as a whole.
I don't know, I didn't get a count. I'll be right back. Hey, when are you?
Reporting from Arizona for The Real News, this is Oscar Leon.